Hello, friends and fellow gamers. I am That Zero, and we are back to chat about more Last Cloudia. And topic of discussion right now is going to be ether grinding. Now, I didn't plan on making another video right away. I don't feel like I have a ton of time, but woke up feeling inspired by a particular person that commented on my last video asking about ether grinding, and it sparked an idea that people need to know this sooner rather than later because the Dr. Stone event presents a unique opportunity for people, and if they miss it, it's gonna suck. So, here I am, like 5 in the morning, and gotta work in a few hours, but you know what? We're here, and we're excited. We're gonna teach you some more shit. Okay, so, ether grinding on its nose is relatively easy. I mentioned in my last video that every time you run an arc, no matter what its level is, you have a 1% chance to gain 0.1% progress, which means it takes forever to do. So, what you do to get around that is basically create a build for it to try to make it better. Our goal of this video is going to be basically taking and finding the most efficient route for you to convert your souls and time into account progress. Notice I didn't say ether progress, because ether progress is one avenue, and it's so tedious and time consuming that if you're going to grind it, you need to be getting more value for your time and souls. Okay, cool. So if you are to the point of mid-game and you are looking to grind out some ether, or even if, you just started out and you're just really wanting to min-max as much as possible, here we are. Let's get it. So, first thing that you need to know, the easiest way to help with this conversion rate is to just make sure that you're not overspending on souls. And that's the easiest part of this that I can tell you, and if you didn't know, congrats. So, second thing, the best way to farm ether is with single wave activities. So, the easiest one that everybody has access to is if we come over to the starting zone, Port Migel, connection to the sea. This is the poor man's farming route. Your rewards from it are going to be trash. You're going to get almost no XP. You're going to get almost no item drops. It's going to be bad. But what you do get is a completion relatively quick in a spot. So if your units are relatively weak, you could be ether grinding on this, but you specifically are just kind of doing it for ether progress, which isn't very efficient conversion rate for your time and souls. If we click right down here, to be able to look at our arc, we can see some different stats, what's on it, and we can also adjust our arc level. There's also a button here. See this here? Boom, arc level. So you can adjust all of these. So even if you have something maxed out to 10, you see how much this costs? 5,000 for that one? Yeah, I very underrated the cost of that in my last video. Yeah, it's just disgusting. So let's drop that down to 1, making it cost significantly less. So now this only costs 110 to run, which is great. So we want all of these to be on level 1 when we are ether grinding, because we want it to cost as few of souls as possible. Easy enough. That's literally the easiest part. Okay, so the key thing you want to do with making an ether team to help with the time portion of this is to have one unit that can one-shot this one round wave. That's the easiest way to do it. If you can't do that, your ether farming is going to be much, much slower. You need to be able to one-shot the waves so that you don't have your allies running around trying to track enemies and use your skills to go get things one by one. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what it looks like to do an actual ether run, okay? Now, for a majority of you, magic is going to be the way that you do this, and the meta has shifted a little bit from where it used to be, because we have new magic easily accessible to us that makes us cast much, much quicker. And it used to just be use the big dick spells you got just so that you kill stuff. Well, we can do better than that now. Okay, so related to all of this, as well as your account in general, the Dr. Stone event presents a really unique opportunity for you. And that is that we all have access to the same SR arc that really, really helps elevate an account, especially if you haven't had the greatest RNG. So let me take a quick peek over and I'll show you what I mean. We're going to go into the trading space, and that spot that I told you is important, the actual event rewards. So we have these event plus 1 SSR 10 spin. Get at least one of these. If you can get all of them, great, because it will help you. You can actually get your ether progress on this particular arc all the way to 100 without actually doing anything. Like, you don't need to grind, you can just get the ether reward. What does this give you? The SR arc that you are rewarded with for this is Stone World. This arc is amazing. Surprisingly, the freebies that we get in this game are generally pretty good. So, one thing that it's good at, the ether reward. Top tier, especially in something like PvP or in long drawn out... Words are hard. It's going to keep happening. Especially in long drawn out fights. This lets you avoid fainting. You don't have to build to reduce faint damage. You don't have to do anything. The only people that don't care about this is people that have been lucky enough to pull Emtheria, because she makes your entire team immune to fainting. If you do not have her, you want this. You want it. It's amazing. In Arena, you put it on your carry, and then they can't faint in combat. In a boss fight, you put it on your carry, so they can't die in combat. They can't faint, and then therefore they can always use their Proud Force to keep themselves sustained via damage and crits, and blah blah blah. You're just gonna win. It's a good time. So, ether reward, Pog. The other thing, this spell right here, after 3,700 years, is an earth spell that hits the entire board. Now, that may sound similar to a different one that exists, which is Grand Cross. Something like that. That animation takes 5 fucking years to take off. This doesn't. It happens almost instantaneously. It's really, really, really fast. Now, I cannot speak on some of the unique magic that there is, because I don't have Shift Zex, I don't have Shift Lilibet, I don't have Amelia, because I know they all have their own unique magics that can do damage to the full board. I don't know how fast those animations are, so those might be able to get added to this list that I'm about to tell you. That I'll tell you later on, because I'm going to go through things you can do to set up your mage to be able to do the job, and then we're going to talk about how you can push further beyond and optimize it further based on what you have available at this particular point in time in your account toolkit, because you need various arcs to make these things happen. So, moving on over. Alright, so I'd like to show you an example of how you can build a mage with basically anyone if you have the right tools for it. I'm going to use After 3,700 Years as my baseline, because A, it's the best spell in my opinion for doing this, and B, everybody has access to it. So I'm going to use it in this particular example, and I'll just show you that you can apply this to just about anybody, so much so that I can do it to Dante, who's a physical damage dealer, and I can make him into my farming mage, because I have the right tools for it. So let's go ahead and see what he's set up with right now. Magic ups. You want to have your int up as high as you can for 2 reasons. One, if your strength is higher than your int, the AI will prioritize skills. Okay? So you want to have your int a reasonable amount higher, which if you're doing this correctly, it should be on a mage anyway. And if it's on a mage, your int should just be higher. Otherwise, they're probably a pretty bad mage, let's be honest. So, Fast Aura. Improving your int more. Easy. Moonlight. At full HP, increase your int. Cool. Easy. Now, depending on what you are running for the magic, again, 3,700 years later, put on your magic boosts. So Earth Boost, Earth High Boost. Cool, so that's going to give us a total 40% on top after all of our other calculations have come into play. Massive. You probably cannot do this farm with this spell if you don't have Earth High Boost on, unless your mage is just really baller as it is. High level magic chant, you want to be as close to insta-casting as you can. So, high-level magic chat takes 20%. 20%, well, remember that. 20% off your cast speed. Get as close as you can to 100% so that you can insta-cast, make these runs quicker. Holy Aura. Holy Aura is not very necessary, but if you just need something extra and you have the SC to push your gear further, it will help. It's very, very good on Dante because he can already leverage this type of a boost because he has a passive that does something similar to Holy Aura by boosting the stats of the skill, which means that even though he's a physical damage dealer, I can get his int really high. So we'll see that in action once I actually get this built out. Magic Aura. We don't care about increasing magic cost. You're only going to cast one spell anyway, so you may as well increase the damage significantly. So Magic Aura, I believe, increases it by another 50%, which is massive. So do that. Magic Aura. I believe that is on Skyship. You'll have to look some of these up. Go use Last Cloudia Gold Mine. Everybody recommends it all the time for a reason. You can find all this stuff there. I'm not going to tell you where to find all this. So that's all I currently have set up on him. We're going to come in and we're just going to look for the highest things for the weapons with the highest int that I have. So we're going to do Heaven's Cry, and sure, we'll do Science Flag. Then what we're going to do, we're going to come in here, and there's two main pieces that you need. Cultist Pendant, Radstone. Okay? So we're going to sort this by int. Cultist Pendant. This is an ether reward as it is, so you're going to need to grind that out. It's from an SR, so it's not too incredibly terrible, but this gives you a 30% cast speed and increased dark damage as well. So if you don't have 3,500 years later, a really good backup is Venomous Rainfall. So if it comes in your kit via, say, Advocate of God Lily, if you have her and you're mad that you have her, she's very good at ether farming. Is she top tier? No, but she requires probably the least amount of effort out of everybody to make it happen well, other than maybe V. No, she definitely does it easier than V. Like, bar none, she is the easiest person to ether farm with, while not the most optimal. God Lily is very good for ether farming. Oh man, I really wish there was a better way to like mark these things. All right, Radstone. Yep, gonna have to put that on him too. All right, so at this point, what have we accomplished? We now have a Dante that has almost 2,000 int as a physical damage dealer. Pog. The other thing we've accomplished, we have high level magic chant giving 20% cast speed. We have cultist pendant giving 30%. We have Radstone giving another 20%. So we're now at 70% cast speed. That's good enough for us to get going. Anybody can do that. You can hit 70%. That's still really good. Other than the initial one that I told you, the Port Aldana, or however it's pronounced, that is worst case if you can't afford anything else. That's the poor man's ether farm, and I do not recommend it. If that's all you can do, don't ether farm yet. That's my advice to you. The other two places that you can go to, one of which I think is significantly better, but both will get recommended to you. One, Royal Capital. Now, you always want to be on hard, mind you, and I will get to why when we come to maximizing your time and effort in this, and leading to overall account progression, okay? So, find Theria, solid. One wave, there's a single enemy, which means that if you just have a carry that's really, really good, and you don't have a mage yet, you could potentially have someone with skill charges that can just go in, use a skill, and just insta-kill the guy. I found that to be a little bit harder to build for, and in general, you're just going to reap more rewards for doing this next one that I'm going to say. You will see this mentioned a lot if you go into our communities, in the subreddit, in Discord, whatever, and that is Imperial Commander 3. When you get far enough in the story, Groggy Mountains, on hard, you'll notice this is not on normal. Oh, it is. It is. I'm a total liar. I've never noticed that before. That's so weird. I guess maybe just because it shifted down a slot. Anyway, I digress. That's what I do. Imperial Commander 3. So, I will show a really quick example of all this working. Okay, so I'm going to start this, and I'll show you exactly how this looks when we're doing a quick clear. Okay? So it comes in, going to cast spell. Cool. Used it. Insta-killed the wave. That was reasonably quick. Now, for anybody that's used some of the magic like Shine Zoc or the Abyss Gate, whatever it's called, you'll notice those have really, really long wind-up animations, probably 5 times longer, if not more, than what this particular spell is, which is why this is so important, and I'm so glad that they reran this so that new players could have access to it. The goal is that you want that to happen automatically. So like I said, having your int higher than your strength is a piece of it. Even if I was able to one-shot the wave with my spell, but Dante's strength was close to or higher than my int, he would just go and use attacks. He would never even cast that spell. So we need to trick the AI into doing that for us by raising up our int enough so that it knows, and also helps our spell to one-shot. So when you're actually auto-running, for anybody that doesn't know, down here on the bottom, there's auto-run. You can basically use any of these, generally use Energy Saver, it's on by default for a reason. Just conserve your battery, especially if you're going to be running on your phone. There's other things you can do where if you want to be a real tryhard, you can download BlueStacks onto a PC, and you can get the game there so that when you're not playing here, you can be signed in on your computer in the background. Maybe while you're at work or something else, you can use your phone to play other games or make calls or just live your life in general. And so you can just be running your ether grind on your computer and just have that going. You don't need to do that though. Vast majority of mine have been grinded just by leaving my phone on while I'm at work for 4 hours straight, 6 hours straight, maybe while I'm in bed, and just letting that go. So you don't need to abuse BlueStacks, but it does make it easier for sure. Rematch support you may as well use, and the reason for that is that we're trying to maximize overall account progression, right? Well, when you put this on, it's going to loop through and just keep on using friends, okay? And when you are using friends, whether they're new or old, you're going to be getting friend points passively. So not only are we getting ether progress, but we're now also getting extra friend points that can be used in the shop to go buy crap you need for building up any of your units that you might need. So I'm going to run this, but I'm going to stop the autoplay really quick to check something. Okay, so I'm going to stop this auto run. You saw Dante was already going to cast by himself, which is great. Rematch support, full. Yeah, okay, perfect. We're going to return that on. So you saw Dante, I didn't assist in the slightest. He just went in, he cast the spell, he wiped them out. This is what auto run looks like. You have your green indicator up top, the screen is dimmed so that you're not using as much battery, and it's just generally easier on your device that you're, working on. And it's just going to keep going through and clicking and auto running through this process for you. Here you can see some ether. There, I got a little bit of ether progress. I went from 18.3 to 18.4. Cool, there's a little bit of progress. Easy. The next piece of this that I want to talk about is maximizing overall account progression. So the way that you do that is you have your one unit that's built. That unit is solely there to make this process go quicker for you. The other slots should be for units that you also care about. And they should have one or two things true about them. One, either you want souls, or two, you want XP. So right now, I'm gaining some extra souls for Gen, which is great, and I don't really care about souls for Little Fish Guy, but I'm trying to get him up to 100 because every unit that you get to 100 gives you 1,000 gems. When you get to endgame, it's one of the only ways that you can reliably get gems anymore because you've completed pretty much everything else. So it's whatever events give you, and then raising all of your units up to level 100 to be able to get stuff. So I'm progressing something that is important to me while leveling up 2 of my arcs right now that need ether. Cool. Further, when you're doing this, make sure one of your units is going to have XP up. You only need one, but it's an extra 20% XP. So those units can be getting more and more XP. Now, the other piece was souls. Anytime you complete a story stage on hard, you have a small chance, much like ether, to get 1 soul from 1 unit in your party. So at the end, I just have a chance of getting a soul for Dante right now, or Fish Guy, or Gen. So over the course of a day, if you ran this for like 8+ hours, I think my average was usually roughly 30 souls for each unit that I have in my party when I'm doing my ether grind. So it helps you, in addition to having the conquer slots, you can be ether grinding while also progressing your souls very slowly. I mean, that could be 1 SC each day for your units. That's huge. It still takes a very long time, but it's huge. The other piece of why I like Imperial Commander 3 specifically, you get other rewards that are really impactful. Now, Find Theory I think is very similar on the loot pool, but there's more enemies here, which makes it better to me. So if we actually inspect, we can see the different drops that we can get here, which is pretty fantastic. So we can see that there's blue and green crystals / clusters. And as you probably have realized, clusters are not easy to come by. They're really, really annoying. Well, if you're auto-farming this, you will just passively get enough clusters that you never have to worry about it again. And take a look at mine. I'm never going to go through 400 of these. No. It's just never going to happen. So, when ability gates come up and I have the choice of what to farm, I only need to ever farm red and purple. And when events come up where I spend event currency to get things, I ignore the blue and the green ones. I just spend on the red and the purple, which means my grind over time is becoming easier now because I'm doing this farm. And if you're at mid-game and you're trying to still enhance people, I mean, you're getting ancient materials, you're getting... nobody cares about ore, those aren't too uncommon anyway. I mean, that's kind of it. There's skill books, which, yeah, you'll never need to farm skill books again if you're doing this because you're going to have a gazillion of them. I mean, what am I at? 7,000 skill books. Yeah, they don't matter. This is where you get them. Also, XP potions. So even though XP isn't the biggest deal, when you're trying to do things, especially later, if you've stockpiled potions and you just want people to hit 100 in order to get an extra 1,000 gems to do some more pulls before a collab goes away or something, you can have these stockpiled so that you can go and be like, I'm going to drop 10,000 potions on something and just get them up to level 100. Cool. This helps you farm that. So you're getting ether progress. You're getting XP for your units. You're getting unit souls. You're getting blue and green clusters. You're getting other miscellaneous crap as well. That's a lot of value for leaving your phone sit. But yeah, it's really, really good. And now that you know all of those different ways to kind of optimize and make sure you're getting the most value, let's talk about how to push these builds further beyond. So I mentioned different ways that we can actually go and optimize these things. So one of the first ones is you want to try to get as close to 100 cast speed as you can, okay? And there's a lot of newer units that will have these things built in, and some where it's a little bit trickier. So if you got Advocate of God Lily previously, she had a tool that you could get, which was her robe, that works very, very well for this. Now, her robe is not... it was not a paid piece of gear, but I believe it was from the events. You did need to be here, and I don't think it's currently available. Hopefully it'll come back the next time that she is featured. But what this gives you is absolutely massive for this. It gives you auto cast, recast, which means you get a free 30% cast speed at the beginning. So in combination with the 70% from before, you're going to be hitting max cast. Awesome. Now, something that you can optionally do is if you have something like this where you're hitting 100, you could choose to bring yourself back down to 80 and forego a little bit of time in order to be getting more of these extra drops, the clusters, the potions, things like that, by putting on the Thief Bangle. So if you happen to have the Ether reward already and have unlocked it for the pirate ship, you can get Thief Bangle and you could put that on your farmer, which is currently on my V because he does my farming. So what this gives you is every time that you kill something, you have a 10% chance for them to drop an extra piece of loot. Just like what rogues do, Phantom Thief Robin, when you use Beast Hunter, things like that. So when you are just in neutral killing things mode, this just has a chance to give you 10% more rewards. Sweet, it's something. So it's something extra. And your cast speed can still be 80, which means it's still really, really fast. And the way you should think about it is it's not that big of a deal going from 70% to 100%, simply because most of the time when you're farming is when you are in the end screen animation and you're clicking through to start a new round. The rounds themselves, if you go from it taking 5 seconds to taking 3 seconds, overall, you're just reducing your loop by 2% total. So it's not a big deal, but if you want to min-max, you can do it. Okay? So we're going to back out of here. Other units of note, Lagrabos in his kit, just his core kit, he has a passive 20% cast speed. Really, really good. Rimuru has a 10% cast speed. Solid. Amelia comes with auto recast. I think Shift Zex does as well. So there's just a few examples of units that are really, really good, and they will excel more than others at this. If you happen to have the Science flag from Light of the Science, and you're using 3,700 years later, well, it increases your Science magic, so it makes it easier to do that one shot. So if your mage isn't quite strong enough to do it on their own, equip that. If you have Gen, put Gen in the party, because he will raise the Science magic with his Silver Tongue in order to be higher, so that you will be one-shotting the wave. Okay, so if you're struggling, maybe you don't have the SC room to make the build that I noted, you know, there's other ways that you can get around it depending on what your account looks like and what tools you have available to you. Other honorable mentions for spells you can use, I noted 3,700 years later, best. Venomous Rainfall, probably second best. If you can make your damage high enough, I've seen people use things like Blizzard or Galaxy. Those could work. And if you have none of these things, or your unit can't one-shot it with one of those other ones that I just noted, you can use some of the other classics that are there. If you need to use Shining Zoc or Abyss Gate, or maybe Amelia's Huma, whatever it's called, those have longer cast times, longer animations, but it'll still work. you can leave your phone auto, and that's still going to be significantly better than just having some physical DPS units trying to chase enemies around and kill them. So still just run it and do what you can. When you get access to other stuff, adapt and improve over time. Just always aim to be a better account than your account was the day before. Don't look at other people's accounts. It doesn't matter. Now, something that could be a little bit challenging on occasion is I've heard, hey, they're not casting my spell. Why are they not casting my spell? There could be a few reasons for that. I mentioned the most obvious one first, which is your int may not be high enough, so the AI may be prioritizing other things like auto attacks or skills. 2, if you have skill charges and you instantly start, maybe it's quick trigger and some skill charges because of the build that you were using for some reason, that could potentially jack with the AI as well, and it might result in them prioritizing skills. So don't do that if you can help it. Another thing you can do to make sure is you can unequip all other spells and also charismas. So God Lily, for instance, if she has her charisma on, then she is going to cast that first because she's trying to do optimal damage. She's not trying to kill things quickly. So remove it. Just remove her charisma, remove any of her other spells so that her only choice is to use the spell that you want. Secondly, something that can slow down runs that people don't often think of, and I didn't notice it right away, but Emtheria or somebody else that is a support using God Heal. God Heal time stops and it is an animation. If you are leveling up units that are much weaker, they may take some hits in the time that it takes for you to cast your spell, depending on what you're running. And if in the middle of that, your support automatically throws a God Heal, you just probably doubled the time for your Ether run to work. So if you're running somebody with God Heal, toggle it off. Don't use God Heal in their kit while you are farming for Ether, just to make sure you're avoiding throwing in random God Heals. It'll just help to make the process a little bit more consistent for you, and you should have just more reliable results if you have more consistent time to complete these things. All right, so in this overall journey to convert souls and time into account progress, let's recap what we have learned. We want to be using as close to 100% cast speed as we can. We want to power up one single unit that can leverage and abuse our farming. We want to get the SR Arc from the Dr. Stone event because the Ether reward is crazy if you don't have Emtheria, and it gives you access to the best farming spell in the game. If there's another one, please correct me down below. So that's important. Get your int as high as you can so that your AI does not try to prioritize auto attacks or skills. Remove all other magic from your unit so that they're not trying to apply debuffs or apply a charisma or something like that, or use a God Heal. So go ahead and do that. You do those things and it will be fantastic. Priority of spell usage, 3,700 years later, Venomous Rainfall, everything else. Okay, again, I have not tested any of the other shift units, some of the unique magics that are only on certain units, so those might be okay, they might be better. I'll leave that up to you to test and figure out for yourself. Now, to the luxury portion of this. Say you were here for the Devil May Cry collab that recently happened, and say you also pulled V. Congrats, you have access to the fastest farm in the game. V does something no other unit in the game does. He actually does a lot of things that nobody else does, but one of the big things is Ether farming. So I can show you really quick what that build actually looks like. Alright, so here's my V. Now, in order to make his build function, and I will also not take credit for this in the slightest, I don't have his exact name, but someone else shared this already over on Reddit, and I think that if they didn't build it themselves, they had some inspiration from Tweaks. If you have not seen him, go look him up. He's all over the Reddit. Basically, anytime you see somebody doing some ridiculous shit where it should be impossible in PvE, he's the PvE god. If you say, hey, can you solo this mega boss with this random unit that's here? The answer is yes, and Tweaks can do it. So he is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to PvE content, and you should check him out because he makes some really entertainment videos and you can learn a lot from him. So I believe that he helped with this build and someone else posted it to Reddit. Otherwise, if you're watching this and you came up with it and it wasn't Tweaks, I apologize. call my shit out down in the comments, please. Take credit for it. The core idea of this is that his first ability, Blockade, it hits the entire board. And it hits very, very hard. Like, probably harder than his other skills, which is really weird. At least it feels like it. It chunks things. It's crazy. So you want to abuse all of his multipliers in order to have it one-shot the wave just like a spell would. Okay? So in order to do this, you want to, A, do the opposite of mages. You want to have your strength higher so that he doesn't prioritize casting spells. You don't want him to be doing anything like that or using autos, whatever. You want to make sure he is using his ability. Do that. On to skills. We've got attack ups. Sorcerer Slayer. Imperial Commander 3 is filled with sorceries. Sorcerer Slayer will give you that 50% buff to make sure you're doing extra damage to them. Pog. Fast Aura. Sky High and Sky Lord. Massive. These are huge, huge boons. So what is this? 20% and up to 50% when things are knocked into the air. His blockade, it hits in a wave, and when it hits, it knocks things up, which means something is technically off the ground when the second instance of damage hits, and then the third and the fourth and the fifth, which means all that follow-up damage gets this extra damage. So he's hitting damage cap easy, super duper easy. If you are completely maxed and have nothing else to spend SC on for your build, let's throw in Blessed Speed, because he does have to take like 2 steps over to the right in order to perfectly line up his shot in order to do it. So if you want to get an extra 0.2 seconds on your run, you can do that. And since I have nothing better to do with life, that's what I did. Dual wield, you want to be hitting multiple times. In PvE, if you don't know already, dual wield is the absolute most essential thing on a physical damage dealer. You cannot reach their max potential without dual wield. There's very, very few exceptions to that. This is another very, very big piece to making this puzzle work. Skill charge 1, nothing else. You don't want your other skills charged because you don't want him to be casting any other skills, because the other skills will slow down your run. Okay? And there's something else in combination that you'll need to know for that. Sharp Eyes. Yeah, this is the equivalent of Magic Aura except for your skills. So you'll use some of your MP in order to do 50% more damage. Again, multipliers on multipliers on multipliers on multipliers. Make it easy to do lots and lots of damage. And then I threw this on, this is basically just giving me increased critical chance in Grand Brave. You could just throw on Fast Brave to make yours work, and Fast Critical for 4 points instead of the 8 I'm using here for my luxury stuff, because I'm also giving him extra speed so he can step a little bit quicker, and I just happen to have this from a different event. You don't need it, it's not necessary. Onto equipment. So this isn't set up with what I'd consider to be the most optimal damage initially in order to one phase. I think that I put on Science Flag. It just helps because then you get some int. You also have the int contributing into strength, so your overall damage dealt is higher. So I'm more on a boss build right now, but as long as your strength gets high enough, it doesn't really matter. So I'm currently running Trishula so that I ignore resistances in case anything's resistant to dark, and then Venocleave because I like running Venocleave on bosses because it gives a lot of extra damage, and it still got close to that nice 200 damage mark. So between all these multipliers, you can very easily go in and just insta-kill this wave. Okay, so I forgot to mention one other piece here. If you happen to have gotten the William Blake's poems from the event shop while DMC was here, this is also very key to this strategy because it essentially brainwashes your AI to always do what you want. So what this does is it gives you 3 seconds of cooldown. Now, you wouldn't think 3 seconds would be that huge, but with a normal skill charge 1, it gets V's skill 1 blockade that we want to abuse to 1 charge and roughly 75%-ish. When we throw on the William Blake poems, it gives us 2 charges. That 2 charges makes the AI prioritize using your skills. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like really quick. So if I do my typical auto run, you'll see it's going to load. He's going to take slight shimmy north on the screen. He's going to move up, and then everything's going to be dead, which is definitely quicker than the casting of the fast spell that we used before. He steps, he zaps, everything's dead. Cool. So that is V. Probably at least 50% faster than the other fastest option of using a spell. I'm not going to go frame by frame and actually see how fast it is because I'm not one of those people. I'm sure somebody else can do that. That ain't for me. I ain't about that life. All right. Well, that is all that I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that I didn't forget anything. I try my best to take some quick notes down, write down all this stuff, and try to get through all the pieces that I wanted to. But hopefully you can see a path forward for how you can farm. If you're really, really low on the account and you just really want to ether grind, even if it's not optimal, you can go to Port Eldana. You could do it even with a physical character if you feel like it. I don't recommend it. I don't think it's that worth your time. Otherwise, you can go to Find Theria if that's easier for you, or you can go to Imperial Commander 3, which I think is completely the most optimal. You want to have your two non-nuking units be ones that you want souls for and need XP, because you want progression in that regard. You want all of your arcs to be at level 1 so that you're not using too many souls. Cool. And you want to build one specific character for this purpose and slowly keep improving them over time. Get your cast speed as close to 100 as you can. Get the Dr. Stone arc from this event if you are able to, so that you can use 3,700 years later. Otherwise, Venomous Rainfall from the Poison Dragon arc. Otherwise, whatever else you have access to, whether it's Zoc or Gate or Grand Cross or Vol Razor, whatever it might be. Whatever magic you have, just use it. And if you can get access to something cooler to improve your times, fantastic. Do the best you can. Use your high boost. Just get your unit to the point that you can one-shot those mages. Period. That's the goal. And then just keep incrementally increasing it from there to make it better and better. And if you are finding that you don't want your phone running all the time, download BlueStacks, and you can get your account on there so that when you're not playing on your phone, you can play over there. Or maybe you exclusively play on BlueStacks already, and it's probably even easier for you to just auto-farm when you're at work or whatever you might be doing. So, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you learned something, and as usual, if you have any feedback for how I can make these better, videos you still want to see in the future, anything that I missed during this whole thing, shout it out in the comments below so that everybody can be in the know. So, thank you so much. As usual, go forth and murder things. I'm out.